Have you ever found yourself lying awake, haunted by your own flaws? Maybe it's that anxiety you can't seem to shake, or the sense that your mind works a little differently than everyone else's. Perhaps you've even wondered, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be normal, calm, unbroken, consistent like everyone else seems to be? But here's a question most of us never dare to ask. What if your weaknesses, your deepest pains, your wildest fears, even your so-called madness were actually the raw material for something extraordinary? This video isn't about masking your pain with cheap positivity, nor about turning away from what makes you different. Instead, we're going to walk straight into the heart of the storm. Today, with the radical philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche, and especially his late work, Ecce Homo, you'll discover how your struggles, your illnesses, your failings might be precisely what life is asking you to transform. Nietzsche himself battled chronic illness, isolation, and a mind so intense that many called him mad. But he didn't run from these hardships. He turned them into fuel, becoming one of history's most original and courageous thinkers. What if you could do the same? By the end of this video, you'll walk away with a new perspective on your personal weaknesses and a powerful reason to embrace them. Practical tools to turn pain and adversity into inner strength, meaning, and creativity. Gentle but piercing questions for self-reflection, designed to help you discover the strength hidden in your own wounds. So, are you ready to look at your madness, whatever it is for you, not as a curse, but as the beginning of your greatest strength? Let's begin. Most of us grow up believing health means the absence of pain, sickness, or instability. If you're suffering physically, mentally, emotionally, it's seen as a defect, something to be hidden, fixed, or quietly endured. The message is clear: if you're broken, you can't be strong. But Nietzsche turns this idea upside down. In Ecce Homo, he writes not of perfect, untroubled health, but of great health. This is a health that isn't the opposite of sickness, but is actually forged through it. Nietzsche describes himself as having lived with illness as a teacher, using the lessons of pain to reach new depths of understanding. The great health, a health that one not only possesses but also constantly acquires and must acquire, because one unceasingly sacrifices it again, and must sacrifice it ecce homo. So what does this mean for you? Imagine your own periods of illness or struggle, when you're forced to slow down, to drop your usual routines, to question everything because your body or mind is in chaos. What happens next? For Nietzsche, these moments are not just obstacles, they're invitations to grow in ways you never could have if everything stayed comfortable. What if, the next time you feel broken, you saw it as a signal not of your failure but of a deeper transformation underway? Can you remember a time when hardship forced you to grow in a way that comfort never could? Here's the key. Great health isn't a static state, but a dynamic process. It's the constant interplay between strength and weakness, stability and breakdown, wholeness and fracture. To be greatly healthy, you must learn to make use of your pain, not just endure it. Nietzsche's own life was marked by repeated collapses, violent migraines, near blindness, digestive agony, crippling fatigue. Yet in the midst of this, he writes with a clarity and wildness that few philosophers have matched. How? He didn't merely cope with illness, he mined it for meaning. He asked, what can my suffering teach me? What perspectives does it force upon me that comfort never could? Nietzsche writes in Ecce Homo, Illness is in many respects the teacher of suspicion. One comes out of such years with a finer sense for all matters, with subtler fingers. Suspicion itself becomes second nature. One is more a philosopher. One keeps asking the question, what is this really worth? Think about your own experience. When you are thrown out of balance, when you lose something you relied on, you start to see the world differently. Your illusions drop away. The truth becomes raw and inescapable. It's like breaking a bone. The fracture is agony, but when it heals, the bone is often stronger at the break. Or think of kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing pottery with gold. The cracks don't disappear. They become the most beautiful part of the bowl. When pain comes, you have a choice. Will you turn away, cover it up, pretend to be fine? Or will you ask, what is this pain trying to teach me about myself, about the world, about what really matters? In what ways has your pain, physical, mental, emotional, made you wiser, more perceptive, or more compassionate? Are there lessons you're resisting because you wish things could go back to normal? Nietzsche's answer is ruthless but freeing. Stop yearning for normal. Let your pain make you extraordinary. Let's pause and take stock. So far, we've seen how Nietzsche's great health is forged through adversity, and how illness, rather than just being an enemy, can become your greatest teacher. But how does this philosophy actually help you transform what you feel are your most shameful weaknesses? Nietzsche is famous for the phrase amor fati, a Latin term meaning love of fate. It's not just about acceptance. It's a radical act, not only enduring what happens to you, but choosing to love it as if you yourself had willed every moment, good or bad. My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, not merely to bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but to love it. Exe homo. This is the turning point. The weakness you carry, your anxiety, your chronic pain, your awkwardness in crowds, even your so-called madness. Nietzsche says, don't just put up with it. Ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped fighting this fate and learned to love it? Of course, loving your fate is no small task. It goes against every instinct of comfort and control. But the paradox is this: the moment you stop wishing for a different life, a different mind, a different self, the moment you say yes to it all, your pain loses its power to define you. It becomes raw material for something new. Suppose you're introverted and struggle in social situations. The usual impulse is to fix yourself, to hide, or to force yourself to become extroverted. Amor fati invites you to ask what hidden gifts are here. Maybe your solitude deepens your creativity, your empathy, your ability to listen. By loving this weakness, you start to shape it into strength. What is one part of your fate you've always resisted? How might you practice loving it even for a single day by looking for the opportunities or strengths it brings? Nietzsche's philosophy is not naive optimism. He never tells you to simply think positive or to glorify suffering for its own sake. Instead, he insists that transformation requires active engagement, a kind of self-discipline or spiritual alchemy. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. Thus spoke Zarathustra, but the spirit is carried through exe homo. The chaos in you, your contradictions, your passions, your wounds, is not to be erased, but channeled. Nietzsche talks about integrating one's drives and instincts, rather than repressing or denying them. He argues that creativity, genius, and wisdom emerge when you learn to work with your chaos, not against it. But this takes practice, discipline, and above all, honesty. Think of an elderly artist, Kai, who lost her eyesight late in life. Instead of giving up, she began to sculpt by touch. Her blindness, once her greatest fear, became the very force that shaped a new artistic vision. She didn't conquer her weakness. She learned to weave it into her art. So what about you? What would it look like for you to engage your weakness as a raw ingredient for growth, rather than as a flaw to hide or fix? What daily disciplines, journaling, creative expression, setting gentle boundaries, seeking therapy, or simply sitting with discomfort might allow you to shape your pain into wisdom? Remember, self-discipline is not about self-punishment. It's about intentional transformation, the ongoing practice of making meaning from what hurts most. Let's gather the threads. You've seen how Nietzsche's great health is forged through struggle, how illness can teach, how Amr Fati reframes your story, and how self-discipline is the daily alchemy that shapes chaos into strength. But there's one more insight: why the very things that isolate you might be the beginning of your true belonging. Nietzsche's most radical strength grew not just from his pain, but from his ability to endure misunderstanding, loneliness, even social exile. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Nietzsche, echoing through his work. Nietzsche was called mad, dangerous, even evil. His ideas scandalized and isolated him, and eventually his mind did break under the strain. But even at his lowest, he returned to his why, the deeper purpose that his suffering uncovered. In modern life, it's easy to feel like an outsider if you don't fit the mold. Maybe you've been told your feelings are too much, your thoughts too dark, your ambitions too strange. But Nietzsche offers a challenge. Dare to stand alone. Dare to let your difference become your gift. When was the last time you shrank yourself to fit in, even if it meant betraying your own truth? How might you use isolation not as a punishment, but as fertile ground to grow your unique vision, voice, or purpose? The world needs what only you, with all your wounds and wildness, can bring. Nietzsche's life shows us that the price of authenticity is often misunderstanding, but the reward is a kind of freedom and meaning that the herd can never know. Imagine this scene. It's 2 a.m. You're sitting alone in a dark kitchen, feeling like your mind is unraveling. Everything you believed about yourself is up for grabs. Maybe you've lost a job, a relationship, or simply the sense of who you're supposed to be. You feel like you're on the edge of madness. But what if, right here in the loneliness, the confusion, the wild ache, what if this is the moment you get to choose, not to return to what's comfortable, but to step into the unknown, to let your brokenness become a doorway? This is Nietzsche's invitation. Will you run from the night, or will you let it teach you how to see in the dark? If you accept this challenge, if you dare to let pain become your teacher, difference your strength, and isolation your source of vision, then you have already begun the journey that Nietzsche called becoming what you are. So why does any of this matter right now in your ordinary, chaotic life? Because the world is full of noise telling you to fix yourself, hide your pain, conform, numb out, or think positive until the cracks disappear. But Nietzsche, through his own agony and brilliance, asks you to do the opposite. Let your wounds teach you. Let your pain deepen you. Let your strangeness become your gold. The most extraordinary people, the ones whose lives are stories of resilience, creativity, wisdom are not those who avoided suffering, but those who made something of it. The next time you feel not enough, pause and ask, what raw material is life giving me right now? How can I shape it rather than curse it? If you feel alone in your struggle, remember, solitude can be a laboratory for the soul, a place where you begin to hear your own voice, not the world's. Nietzsche's philosophy isn't easy, but it's fiercely hopeful. He offers you not a path around pain, but a way through it toward greatness defined on your own terms. Let's recap what you've discovered today. Great health is forged, not given. Your health is not the absence of trouble, but the ongoing practice of transforming suffering into strength. Illness is a teacher. Pain, loss, and instability are not just enemies, they're sources of insight and sensitivity. Amor fati, love your fate. The art of loving, not just accepting, the whole of your life, especially what you cannot change. Self-discipline is alchemy. Transformation requires daily intentional work, honest engagement with your pain, not denial or repression. The courage to stand alone. Your difference may isolate you, but it is the root of your unique vision and value. Your greatest weaknesses, your moments of madness or despair, are not the end of your story. They can become the crucible of your true strength if you dare to look, listen, and learn. You are not broken. You are unfinished. The world may never understand your particular madness, but you can choose to make meaning from it, to become what you are, to use every pain, every flaw, every lonely night as the fire that forges your unique greatness. Tonight, ask yourself, what is one part of your pain, your madness, your difference, that you can stop hiding and start listening to? What might happen if you approached it, not as a curse, but as the beginning of your next strength? If you're ready to take even one small step on this journey, you are already braver and more alive than you know. If this video sparked something in you, if you're ready to look at your life with new eyes, let us know in the comments. What part of your weakness are you ready to explore or transform? Share your story, your struggle, your question. Subscribe for more mind-opening, soul-strengthening videos. And in the next episode, we'll explore how Nietzsche's idea of the Superman can help you redefine what it means to live authentically on your own terms. You are not alone. You are becoming. The ideas explored in this video are for philosophical and psychological exploration and are not intended as professional advice. Viewers are encouraged to engage in their own critical thinking and further research, and to consult with qualified professionals for personal concerns.